we welcome to the show spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Tal Heinrich. Tal, thank you so much for joining us. Look, there's a few things here that I just would love to get some clarity on, because we have a United Nations that is well documented, has refused to condemn Hamas, has refused to put forth an actual resolution demanding the hostages be sent back. And this is all in the background while you end up having a situation where we can't actually get the hostages to return, because Hamas, running the show, has declared they will not return any hostages until there is a, quote, full cessation of actual aggression. So in this context, how do we actually put more pressure on the people who are pulling the strings if we have a UN organization that will not hold Hamas accountable, and if we have a U.S. administration that continues to coddle Hamas?
You see, you're right on point in what you just said about the United Nations. You know, the resolution that Israelis would expect the UN Security Council to pass is first and foremost one that condemns Hamas and their October 7th atrocities, and also that calls for the unconditional surrender of this terrorist regime, and that all hostages will immediately return home. That's the very basic, right? And we haven't seen anything of this kind and we're two months after October 7th. So that is outrageous. But we are very grateful and thankful for the United States, because if you have seen the previous drafts of this resolution, if you've seen the negotiations on the text that eventually passed, I mean, you've had certain drafts there that called for a ceasefire. And we say that a ceasefire that leaves Hamas in power with the ability, with the desire to perpetrate October 7th again and again and again is simply unacceptable. A ceasefire that will leave the hostages in Gaza is also simply unacceptable. So you have this built-in bias that everyone in my country, at least, is aware of against Israel. And just, you know, to put things in perspective, you know that in the year 2023, the UN General Assembly passed 14 resolutions that condemned Israel. For comparison, did you know how many resolutions passed against Venezuela, Pakistan, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran? It's between 0 and 1. That's ridiculous.
Yes, there is definitely anti-Israeli bias, definitely in the states, a rise in anti-Semitism. And this is another instance of it. Hillary Clinton, Tal, met with families of Israeli hostages this week. And instead of focusing on the families, she spent the day criticizing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, saying he's putting the strategic goal of eliminating Hamas over the release of all hostages. Tal, what do you make of this?
So we have defined two clear goals for this war that Hamas has dragged us into on October 7th. One is to eliminate their terrorist regime. My nation took this decision. It's not just the government. Every Israeli person in this country decided that we can no longer live next to this terrorist enclave. Not only the ones who purport to carry out another October 7th, but for 16 years they've been raining tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, accumulating on our communities. And the second goal is to bring back all hostages. Now, these two goals, they go hand in hand. They're not contradictory. And that is an important point here, because if it wasn't for the military pressure that we have exerted so far on Hamas, the very heavy military one, as you know, we're killing thousands of terrorists in Gaza, they wouldn't have released the hostages as per the outline that we've had in place back in November. That is what created the conditions to bring about the release of hostages.
Right. And Sarah, this question's for you. What do you make of the media's handling of the war in Israel, and how are they covering it? Is the left receiving the right messages from their leaders, especially when it comes to comments like the ones that we're hearing from Hillary Clinton?
Look, I'm not going to talk about Hillary Clinton's comments particularly. I'll just talk about the media as a whole. Like, as a member of the press, where it's our obligation to remain neutral. And I think the majority of people are trying to do that, but it's because they are trying to remain neutral, it's looking like it's leaning more towards favouring and becoming Hamas sympathisers. Too many people in the media are too scared to call out a terror organisation for what it is. And I think that that is where this this non-media bias, which we're meant to not have, is showing that it's swaying everything in the other direction. And because too many people are scared to for lack of a better words, to upset the underdog in this situation, the only way to sort of to go against that is to just criticize Israel more and more. And I think it's a really fine line that journalists are trying to toy here, which really, honestly, they're not doing a very good job at.
Tal, to that point, you talk about the buzzwords, a ceasefire, a two-state solution. All of these seem to ignore reality, right? You look at what's happened here. You cannot have a two-state solution with individuals that do not actually believe that the Jewish state of Israel has a right to exist. You cannot be talking about a ceasefire as if Hamas decided to attack a military installation. They attacked innocent men, women, and children on October 7th and proceeded to rape and kill and maim. And those people are still in captivity. So with this context, how is it that we can apply more pressure to those like we have here at home, Senator Schumer trying to hold up aid to Israel? Billions of dollars have been approved by Congress, and he wants to tether it to aid for Ukraine.
People have to understand one simple thing. Hamas does not want a two-state solution. What they want is the final solution. And this is what some people are failing to understand. Any talk of a political solution, so to say, for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict prematurely, again, it's counterproductive at this point. The right conditions have to be in place, and Hamas must be gone. That's the first condition.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sarah Williamson and Tal Heinrich, thank you so much.